I recently made a mistake on the John Muir Trail, or JMT, that nearly turned serious. I was well on my way to full-blown hypothermia. I did some things right, but I also made errors that we can learn from. My hiking partner Dave and I were near Tuolumne Meadows when we got caught in a graupel, sleet, and hailstorm. My rain suit wetted out, but I kept moving and seemed to be okay. That activity was preventing net heat loss. When we stopped at the Tuolumne Grill and stood for a while, the trouble started. If you stop moving with wet clothing against your skin, your body stops generating heat while losing it rapidly through evaporative cooling. That's the danger. I heard there was a wood stove at the visitor center, so we walked 1.5 miles to sit near it. It didn't help a lot, but we then reserved a tent cabin at Tuolumne Lodge and got a ride there from an off-duty ranger. There were showers at the lodge, so I took one and I recovered. That's the quick summary. Here's the details and the mistakes I made. I see others making them too. First, I was too proud, maybe too embarrassed to let Dave know how bad off I really was. Hypothermia doesn't care about your ego or your experience level. It doesn't care that you've been hiking for decades. When you're hypothermic, you need to speak up, ask for help. You show your experience by recognizing the danger and seeking help. After all, I had a rain suit that failed. That's not an embarrassing moral weakness. Second, I failed to get into dry clothes. I had multiple opportunities to do so and I missed 3 chances. Before we got to the grill, we walked through a campground where there were restrooms where I could have changed into dry clothes. I didn't even think of it. At the Tuolumne Grill, I could have changed. At the visitor center, I was by a wood stove. My pack had dry clothes. I could have asked the staff if there was a back room or bathroom where I could change. But I didn't think of that either. It always seemed like I was a few minutes away from someplace dry and warm. First it was, I'll just get to the visitor center. Then it was, I'll just wait until we get to the lodge. This just a few more minutes thinking is exactly how hypothermia becomes dangerous. Hypothermia itself was impairing my judgment. I didn't think to strip down and change. This is a textbook hypothermia progression. It robs you of the very thinking you need to fight it. My feet and hands weren't particularly cold, which convinced me I'd be okay. By the time we were riding to the lodge, I was barely able to suppress the shivering. Getting a tent cabin at the lodge was lucky. There were cancellations due to the weather, so they were available. It was good that we got a ride instead of having to walk from the visitor center. I needed those lucky breaks. When we arrived, I sat by the wood stove in the lodge store while Dave signed us in and they did a quick prep of our tent cabin. Once we got to it, about 20 minutes after arriving, I got out of the wet clothes and took a long hot shower while Dave fired up the wood stove. A hot shower isn't the best approach. There's the after drop that I mentioned in my winter hiking video. When you're hypothermic, your body shuts down circulation to your extremities to protect your core. When you rapidly rewarm with a hot shower, those blood vessels suddenly open back up and the cold blood from your arms and legs rush back to your heart and core, dropping your core temperature even more and potentially causing cardiac issues. A warm shower, not a hot one, would have been safer. I was lucky that I wasn't severely hypothermic, so it worked out for me. The wood stove in the tent cabin kept us warm and dried our clothes, and we had an excellent dinner that night and a solid breakfast the next morning. We were soon on the trail again, warm, dry, and ready to continue. Here's what I should have done, and this is what we need to understand. I should have gotten dry sooner, at the campground, the grill, or the visitor center. When I got to shelter, my immediate priority should have been to get into dry clothes. Even standing in cold air in dry clothes or wrapped in a tarp or emergency blanket is better than staying in wet clothes. Could I have walked to the lodge and gotten reheated from that activity? Well, that's a dangerous assumption. I was barely able to suppress my shivering. That indicated my body's primary heat generation mechanism was maxed out. I generated heat for the 1.5 miles walking to the visitor center, and it wasn't enough to overcome the loss. Exercise only works if you can generate more heat than you're losing. With wet clothing and cold conditions, the math doesn't work, especially when you're fatigued. The risk of collapse increases as hypothermia progresses. Your muscles become less efficient, your blood sugar drops, and if I had walked to the lodge, I would have arrived in worse shape, if I arrived at all. The lesson here is clear. Don't expect hiking more will save you. Get out of the wind first, then change into dry clothes. I did the first, but not the second. Third, add insulation. Put on every dry layer available, focusing on the core. I had plenty of dry clothes to use, but I failed here too. I was lucky we were near Tuolumne Meadows with buildings and heat available. If you're deep into backcountry like most of the JMT, the urgency is greater. Don't push for that perfect campsite another mile ahead. Set up your tent or shelter immediately if you're wet and cold, even if it's not ideal. Get inside out of the rain, strip out of those clothes. If you have dry clothes in your pack, Put them on and get into your sleeping bag on a sleeping pad. If you don't have dry clothes, well, get into the sleeping bag naked. Your body heat will warm the bag better than wet clothes. Get a stove going if you can so you can drink warm liquids. This is why waterproof sacks for your sleeping bag and dry clothes are important. A dry sleeping bag may be the only thing between you and a life-threatening situation. Warm the core first, your torso, not the extremities. Drink warm, sweet drinks if you can, but no alcohol. Alcohol makes you feel warmer by bringing blood to your skin, but that accelerates heat loss from your core. Gentle passive rewarming is the safest. Just a few more minutes is hypothermia talking. When you're cold and wet, the time to act is now, not at the next shelter. Don't wait for the perfect shelter. The campsite restroom wasn't ideal, the visitor center wasn't the lodge, but they were good enough. Good enough now beats perfect later when you're hypothermic. Uncontrollable shivering is a red flag. Even if your willpower can suppress it, you're already into moderate hypothermia at least. Since hypothermia impairs the very judgment you need to handle it, have a plan before you get cold. Know the decision points and the actions you'll take. Know the plan before you need it. Don't count on luck. You need to make the right decisions at each turn. As older hikers, our bodies don't regulate temperature as well as they once did. We may not notice we're getting dangerously cold until it's too late. Our reduced thirst response means we're more likely to get dehydrated, which increases susceptibility to hypothermia. At high elevation, like on the JMT, everything is harder, including the body's ability to stay warm, the ability to think clearly about what to do. The key is having truly waterproof gear and dry change of clothes accessible. Know the signs of hypothermia in yourself and your partners. Have a buddy system to recognize symptoms in each other. Make a commitment. If you're cold and wet, you will change clothes immediately, no matter how inconvenient, no matter how close you think you are to your final destination. You may end up at a different final destination instead. This incident occurred in August. Hypothermia can hit you on the trail at any time of year, even in midsummer. Don't let pride or just a few more minutes put you in danger. And by the way, I bought a new poncho at the next resupply stop, and I was just fine in the next storm. If you found this information useful, please like, share, subscribe, and comment on this or other topics you'd like me to cover. And if you haven't seen this video, I recommend you take a look at it now. Thanks for watching.